So for most of you, this is your first time going through this process. So I think it's really helpful to outline how is this next year going to play out. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of month by month, step by step. And of course, we're going to revisit this throughout the year. But before I get there, before I get into content, I'm going to give you what I think is the most important piece of information that you're going to learn or hear in this entire course. This is the feedback. We do surveys every single year. And what we do at the end of the year is we go back and we ask parents, what do you wish you learned at the beginning of this process? What do you wish you did differently? And here's the answer we get beyond anything else. They said, well, this process was so stressful and we got caught up on making sure we took care of the admissions requirements, the financial aid requirements, and the deadlines. And what we lost sight of was the fact that this is our last year that our son or our daughter was going to be under our roof. You know, we had wished we had not taken for granted the fact that our baby's going away to school next year. And I got caught up in this whole thing, and I kind of took for granted that this is the last time they're going to be living with us. So we want you to put the stress and the anxiety that's involved with this process on us. Okay, we see that as our responsibility. Let us do the heavy lifting for you. You just come along for the ride. You worry about enjoying the time with your son or your daughter because it's going to be over before you know it. I think it's really helpful to play out the whole year. How's this next year going to play out? Now, we're going to revisit this throughout the year, but let's at least give you a clear understanding of what to expect. Now, August is really the most responsibility falls on the student. Okay, this is when they really need to start preparing themselves because we always tell our families once that first day of school starts, it's on. So the more they can get done before then, the more they're going to thank themselves. So during August, they should be taking care of their essay. They should be starting their common application and their supplemental applications. They should be reaching out to teachers now because they're going to need 2 teacher recommendations. So do that before school starts because you're going to get a better product from the teachers because the more requests they get, they're only human beings. When they're doing their 30th recommendation, it's not going to be as strong as the first one. So the students, they got to get their butts in gear. Now's the time. If you're working with a one-on-one CFS representative, we would like to have your information by the end of this month. Again, as parents, we try to set a similar deadline that we want all your information by the end of the first day of school. And as a family, we really encourage you to have 2 to 4 definite colleges in what you're applying, again, by that first day of school. So let's call it September 1st. So those are our big items for August before we really get into the thick of things in September. So September, obviously, school's underway. We're working on these common applications. We're working on the supplemental applications, and we really want to hone in on that list because by the end of this month, by the end of September, we think you should have a final list or you should be pretty stinking close. Now, this is also when we want to get our ducks in a row in terms of starting to pull together our tax returns, our W-2s, our financial statements, because October 1st, that's when all the financial aid applications become accessible. So let's move to October. October 1st is always a big milestone in our year because the CSS profile is accessible. And again, that's a financial aid application required by just about all these private colleges. And the FAFSA is accessible. And that's required by every single college, no exceptions. So we want to start working on these as soon as possible. And obviously, we need to know where we're applying to know where we're sending which applications. We also need to be very good about going on each of the colleges' websites to figure out what do you require and when is it due. And this pertains to both the admissions requirements as well as the financial aid requirements. Now, if your student decides to apply early decision or early action, you could have deadlines as early as November 1st. So we just want to have that date in the back of our minds to say, hey, if we're applying early to school here, these deadlines are coming up pretty quick. It could be as early as November 1st. Now, that's a small percentage of schools, but nonetheless, we want to burn that into your heads because we do not want to miss deadlines. We do not want to miss deadlines from an admissions standpoint, and if we miss it from a financial aid standpoint, some schools will not give you any money. They will hold that against you. Do not give them an excuse to get less money. So October is a busy month, okay? Now, November, moving into November, hopefully we've already checked a couple boxes. Our list of schools is solidified. And at least for our clients, our financial aid applications will already be sent. If you guys decide to take on this process on your own, you want to make sure that you send financial aid applications no later than the priority deadline date. If you miss a priority deadline date by a day, it's a major problem. Okay, so you need to be, again, responsible for keeping track of your own deadlines. And again, if you applied early, it won't be earlier than November 1st. A lot of the common deadlines are November 15th, December 1st, December 15th. So hopefully in November, we're starting to tie up a lot of loose ends. Okay, so we go home for Thanksgiving, take a nice break. Now we're into December. So if you thought December was an action-packed month before, you're really going to learn what that means when you have a senior in high school applying to college. Okay, these guys are going to make you earn it. Because a few things happen. There's a bunch of moving parts here. Beginning in the middle of the month is when we get admissions and financial aid decisions beginning to roll in. So if we've applied early action or early decision, we're going to start to find out in the middle of December, going into the middle of January, did we get in? Did we get waitlisted? Did we get deferred? Did we get denied? And in some cases, how much money are they offering? So if we already get a financial aid offer, that means we're already starting the appeal and negotiating process in addition to getting that news. Outside of that, what's going to be relevant for most of you guys is at the beginning of the month, you're going to get an email from a branch of the College Board called IDOC. And what IDOC is a central processing agency that's used by most of these private colleges. And what they do is they collect your tax returns, your W-2s, etc. They process it in-house and then distribute it to the private colleges in which you're applying. Little bit of a pain in the ass. In addition, 1 out of 3 applicants will be selected for federal verification. And that means that at all the schools in which you've applied, the federal government is going to verify everything that you put on the FAFSA. And they do this by collecting your tax returns, collecting your W-2s, and they require something that's called a verification statement. It's another layer of applications, another layer of pulling stuff together, but it's just something we need to be aware of and just have to be plugged in to make sure that if and when this information is requested, we follow through with that. It makes the whole thing run smoother. So we're in the middle of January here, and this is kind of a weird time because it's a little bit of a holding pattern. We've submitted our admissions applications. We've submitted our financial aid applications. And all of a sudden, we're looking around going, shouldn't I be doing something? We've been going at this feverish pace for the last several months. And the answer is really no. We get a little bit of a lull beginning mid-January, really going into the beginning of February, or I should say the middle of February, because what happens in February is that the schools in which we've applied regular decision, they start to get back with their admissions decisions. So between mid-February and in most cases mid-March, we're going to know everywhere in which we've been accepted. And then shortly thereafter, we're going to know what we got from a financial aid standpoint. Like I said, some of these pain-in-the-ass schools, they make us wait until the first week of April before they tell us, A, if we're in, and B, what we're getting. But by and large, by the middle of March, we're going to kind of know the deal. And if you recall, once we get these admissions or financial aid decisions back, that's when we're going to circle back with the colleges in which we want to focus on. And we're going to negotiate and appeal for additional financial aid. So this is all going to happen by the middle of March going into the beginning of April. The next major milestone and a universal milestone in this whole process, kind of the one universal milestone, is May 1st. May 1st is the drop dead date in terms of when we have to put in our housing deposit, which is basically our commitment to attend a given school. Most schools, it's about $500. They want $500 by May 1st, and that tells them this is where we're going, and it secures our spot in the classroom, secures our spot in the dorms. Okay, we're not done yet, though. Because what happens shortly after May is all of next year's loan options become released. So for those of us that need to borrow, these loan options change every single year. So we have to analyze those loans, and we're going to do them for you. Okay, we're going to analyze those loans in the middle of May, and then we're going to give you feedback. We're going to say, okay, guys, here's everything that's available. Here's what we see as the pros and cons of each. Now let's collaborate on what makes the most sense for you guys and roll that out so we are ready to go by the time that first bill is issued. Now, the first bill is usually issued in and around July 1st. Of course, every school is different, but that's the average. That's due in and around August 1st, okay? So our goal with our families is that by July 1st, we create kind of a false deadline, but by July 1st, we know exactly how we're going to pay, not only for the first year of college, but all 4 years for all 4 kids that is going to be in place a month before the actual due date. And then, of course, we pay the bill. That's the fun part. We pay the fall semester bill August 1st, and then it's time to party. So pretty easy, guys. That's how the next year is going to play out, and it's going to be a beautiful thing, and we're looking forward to living it with you.